This story, soon you won't be allowed to smoke in public places. Well, that's if government succeeds on finalising a new draft bill to introduce stricter anti-smoking rules for South Africa. Well, let's discuss this. I'm joined now by the chairperson of the Fair Trade Independent Tobacco Association, Sinenhlanhla Mnguni. Mr. Mnguni, good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday View. Yet another hurdle that's going to affect your industry. When you heard the news about this impending draft bill just a few days ago, when the world was marking World Anti-Tobacco Day, what did you think?
Oh, well, Brad, when it rains, it pours, especially when it comes to the tobacco industry in South Africa over the last few years. Just a point of correction, in as far as the bill is concerned, it dates back to, I think, 2018, when we were first requested to submit our submissions in as far as the proposed intentions of the bill at the time. We then, during the course of the last month, have had consultations with government by the Department of Health in relation to this particular bill. And I think it's now that it's sort of been fine-tuned by government to a point where I think they are ready to run with it and implement it. But yeah, it's something that's quite concerning in the grand scheme of things, given, of course, that we've just come from a period where largely we didn't trade for 5 months. So it is quite concerning.
But the process for contributing, or those consultations you've mentioned, are they over as far as you understand? Because my understanding is that government is now in the process of finalizing, and then it's going to engage with cabinet, and of course there'll be a few technical committees that will need to look at all aspects. Is the industry going to be involved still, or is your contribution now done and dusted?
Look, it looks from what we're reading in the media that our contribution is done and dusted. We're hoping that that's not the case. Of course, we know, for instance, that government stated that there were some 21,000 submissions received in as far as this proposed bill is concerned. So we do not know how they would have had the time to go through all those submissions and then have one small consultation with industry, which lasted some 1 hour. Which we deem as is not sufficient time to go through all the submissions raised and to come up with something that would take all those submissions into consideration. So we're hoping that this is not the end of the road in as far as government's engagements with industry on this particular issue, particularly given the fact that this particular bill, once it's enacted as legislation, has the potential to have severe impacts economically on both us as an industry, but also on our employees and further on government in terms of the revenue it generates from the industry.
But health experts would argue that smoking costs the economy a lot of money. We know there's a lot of pulmonary diseases, lung cancer it contributes widely there, and that costs the country a lot of money. I mean, how would you respond to that?
Look, I don't think anyone can argue against that. In fact, even as an industry, we acknowledge that, and hence the health warnings that you find on packets of cigarettes and other tobacco-related products. And of course, this is what's been happening globally since the 90s, in line with the World Health Organization's Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. However, tobacco products as a whole are still legitimately sold and lawfully so. And of course, they employ a substantial amount of people. So, of course, whilst the industry is still legitimized, we need to find a way that we can still protect a substantial portion of jobs and the revenue generated therefrom, whilst also being responsible and allowing people the right to make the choices in as far as smoking, while also giving them the tools through what's now being implemented by government and educating people on the dangers of consuming tobacco products as a whole.
Okay, pardon the pun as I conclude with you. I'm smelling a constitutional court challenge here.
The matter, as our politicians like to state, is sub judice. No, I'm joking, Brad, and I think we're going to, at this stage, evaluate what happens, and let's see how government intends approaching this and implementing the bill in its final form. Thereafter, I think industry as a whole will have to sit down, go to the drawing board, and decide what steps to take. Of course, we do not want to be seen to be taking on government when it's implementing policies which are geared at protecting its citizens. But of course, we want any process that's followed to follow the proper channels and procedures.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mnguni. We'll have to watch and see what happens over the next few weeks. Yeah, government, literally, this draft bill is bordering on a total ban of smoking, including advertising or marketing of all sorts. We have to wait and see how it's going to play out. That's Sinenhlanhla Mnguni, chairperson of the Fair Trade Independent Tobacco Association.